Right. Welcome, everybody. Looks like we already got some folks on here ready to go. So appreciate you guys joining early. If you want to drop a comment in for those of you that are able to do that, whether you're watching us on one of our social channels or on YouTube, or if you are directly on our webinar platform here, StreamYard, go ahead and drop a comment in. Let me know where in the world you're joining from. And we are going to get started here shortly. This is a topic that has always been near to my heart and super important in the business world. But honestly, the changes and things that have happened, let's see here, got a warning there. The changes that that have come into play this year are definitely going to be the biggest kind of most dramatic changes that we're facing as marketers. And I was checking our other stream here. All right, we'll see. We may not be on Facebook, but we're everywhere else. So, but yeah, this is with email marketing. This is one of the biggest changes that has come through in the last 10 plus years. And it's been broadcasted by the email providers. We've been talking about it all year, but honestly, a lot of folks have still missed it. And so we wanted to really jump into things that you need to know, because the requirements for email marketing are definitely a lot stricter. This is all a good thing if you're aware and you update and change behavior and processes. But if you're unaware, it could be really detrimental to your business. And so that's why we wanted to share that today. So we're going to be diving into that. We'll give everybody a few more minutes here to join before we get into our content. But while we're doing that, I'm curious, Ashley, what have you seen email marketing wise for us and for our clients this year so far? I know we're like almost 4 months in here, but I'm just curious what you're noticing.
Things have changed a lot, actually. We've seen a lot of fluctuating open rates, lots of fluctuating click rates. Engagement has actually gone down quite a bit, which obviously people get busy, but it really goes to show how important it is to write more engaging copy, more engaging headlines, because now more than ever, people want to hear things that they want to listen to. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but the old ways of marketing is really outdated at this point, especially with the way that you're writing copy. And we've even had to change our strategy multiple times over the last few years. And that's just a part of marketing your business and stuff like that. But again, now more than ever, things are changing and things are kind of evolving. And it's important to evolve with the market, because if you think that you can just stay there, even if it's worked in the past, it's likely that you're going to fall with the rest of them. So lots of exciting changes happen, but it's actually a good thing. And I know we're going to jump into that a little bit more later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have so many shifts going on in marketing right now because we have these two forces coming into play in all markets. And the first is that the millennial generation is going to become the most wealthy generation in the history of the world. Even if we cut out inflation, like if we were to adjust for inflation, millennials as a generation will be inheriting more wealth than anything that has ever occurred in history so far. And so millennials are already a huge buying power, but they will be an even more powerful, buying power in the market. And so their expectations of how to be marketed to, how they want to be communicated to, is really important to be aware of. And then on the heels of that, which is really fascinating, and this is a little bit early, but it's really valuable to have the awareness, is that the alpha generation, which the oldest alpha generation people, I believe, are like 12, 13, 14, if I remember correctly. My son falls into that category now. They have more buying power than any generation has at that age before too. And they have more sophistication and access to technology and information than ever before. And so that just kind of speaks to what you were talking about there, Ashley, that marketing is changing. It's always changing, but we are in a big, big dynamic shift with those are just two generations that have a lot of impact. It does not exclude the other generations that still have a bunch of buying power and impact as well. So lots of exciting changes, and email marketing is something that I'm confident is going to be around for decades and decades. I've heard plenty of people, use the marketing ploy of emails dying and you should be doing this. Like, that's total crap. It's not true. And email is going to be a powerful channel for a long time. And so it's always something we talk about. And with the changes, yeah, Michelle said her youngest is Alpha generation. Yeah, it's so fascinating to watch that generation for me right now. But yeah, so there's going to be lots of important changes. So I'm really glad you're here. You can definitely leave your questions in the chat for those of you that are live on the webinar here. For those of you watching the replay, shoot us a message. Let us know what questions you have. For anybody on social, again, comment, shoot over a question. We're here to help you. My intention and our time today is just to serve you well with the information and the resources to be able to have effective email marketing. And so we're going to dive right in. All right. So starting off, as of 2022, this is the most recent data. And so we know this is likely exponentially higher. There were 162 billion unwanted emails sent every day. And that's 49% of all emails sent. And we'll dive into unwanted email a little bit more, but I want to clarify it here as we start as well. Unwanted email is any email that somebody doesn't open. We're not just talking about spam. This does include some spam numbers, but it's probably, in my guess, it's probably sub 30%, maybe even 20% of the number here is things that are going to spam. And we're going to talk about why more things are going to spam right now, but things are going to go to spam if you don't walk through and get compliant with the things that we're going to talk through today. But also, emails that don't get opened are just as damaging to your brand and your ability to email market in the long run. So that's why it's an important thing to pay attention to here. On February 1st of this year, 2024, Google and Yahoo followed the same initiatives that Apple and Microsoft implemented on their unwanted email policy. And the goal for this is, one, nobody needs extra noise and information that they don't want to take action on or get value from. And also, all of these email box providers, these are the major four. Other smaller ones have followed suit at some level. But if you look at Google, Yahoo, Apple, and Microsoft, that is 95% of the list of people that are on your email list. Whether or not they don't have to have a yahoo.com or a gmail.com or a microsoft.com or outlook.com email. Those providers specifically also sell business accounts. So like if you email us at, bmeweb.com, that's a Google account. Same thing applies. There's tons of business emails on Yahoo and Microsoft. Apple does not have as much of that, and they may not have any. I haven't dug into that recently. But essentially, everybody on your list, almost everybody on your list, falls into using one of these mailbox providers. And so the policies that were announced last year and put into place February 1st are now in full force. Sometimes Google, not officially, but practically, as I've observed them over the years, sometimes they will give a grace period, and they definitely gave somewhere between 30 and 60 days grace period after they implemented this. But now these policies are in full effect, and all these mailbox providers, they don't want to house all the garbage email that nobody's reading. And they also want to have a good user experience for their users. And so we're going to talk about some of the prompts and some of the things that they're already doing to make sure that they're providing the best experience to their users. And in order to market in this channel, you need to ensure that you are also providing the best experience for your users, because you're sharing a user, a customer, with these mailbox providers. So unwanted email, like you touched on a little bit earlier, most people are thinking that this, if you have heard about the email change, most people are thinking, oh, this applies to spammers. Obviously it applies to spammers. If you're a spammer, you're always going to end up in the spam box because you're just not even making any attempt to follow a process and serve people and do what you're supposed to do. But the real impact of this policy change is going to completely bury spammers at a deeper level so that they won't even hit the spam box as often. But it's actually equally and more so about the folks that are sending unwanted email. So if you're emailing, for easy numbers, if you have a list of 1,000 people and you're emailing to them and only 100 people are opening consistently, you are sending 900 unwanted emails every time you send that newsletter, that blast out. And that is not useful or effective. And it's actually going to start damaging your ability to send email marketing at all in the future if you don't make these adjustments. Who will be affected? Of course, business owners, marketers, and marketing teams. Obviously, those are closely tied together, because whether or not you're doing your own marketing as a business owner, or you have a marketing person or a team doing that, then you're impacted by this. If you do any type of email marketing, so outside of you sitting down to write a one-to-one email to somebody that you know that's in your contact list in your mailbox, if you're sending any type of promotions, newsletters, even email follow-up series, drips, and things like that are affected by this as well. Not as much as sending straight newsletters, but all those things are impacted. And of course, the other very important kind of group or party involved in this that's going to be affected is the prospects that want to hear from you are going to be impacted if you don't implement these best practices and this principle-based approach that we're going to be walking through today as well. So what you need to know is, in the relatively near future, open rates are going away. Not that people aren't going to open emails, but ultimately, I expect within 24 months, and that could be sooner, it could be a little bit later, that most email marketing platforms will no longer have the ability to show you how many people open the email. And the reason for that is privacy is becoming an expectation in all markets from all consumers. Apple has specifically been championing, if that's a word, privacy more than anybody else. And so they started this 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And if you've seen any of the Apple ads or billboards or commercials, you may have seen the ad where it's it's just a phone and somebody's face like this, so you can't see their face. And so they've been championing privacy across the board. All the big platforms are now realizing that everybody expects privacy and security. And so they're not giving away interactive behavior or behavioral data as much. And behavioral data is, did I open the email? So opens are going to go away. Ultimately, clicks inside your platform will go away. But when you're marketing effectively, you're going to be able to put a link in with the right tracking. They're called UTM codes, but the right tracking links. And so you will be able to track results from the property you own. So if Ashley sets up a page for BME Crew for something we're offering there, and she sends out an email for us, when people click it, we will, in the future here, in the relatively near future, we will just look at that page analytics and the tag that came from the URL she put in the email. And it will say, 300 people clicked this on April 24th. And we know that because we're looking at our own data we can control, but we will have less accuracy and ultimately probably no data out of people clicking inside the email platform. So that's just a heads up on that. And it's a great reminder and warning that all platforms change and all markets change. And so the best way that you can continue to generate revenue profitably, best way you can serve your prospects, your customers, your clients, everybody that you're serving, is to make sure that you are active and proactive in being compliant in email marketing and truly paying attention to what matters to your audience. Gone are the days when you could just build a big list and spray and pray and send to a bunch of people and hope that people open and engage. So building a big list as its own objective is not as relevant or valuable as building the right list of people. So opens are going away. Gmail, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Apple may blacklist you if you are non-compliant with the right DNS records, sending out the right content, and managing your list according to standards. And so to dive into that a little bit deeper, what that means is, if you are, let's just use larger numbers that are definitely impacted by this, because we know they're impacted there, but smaller lists will be impacted at some level as well. So let's say you have a list of 10,000, or actually we'll use a real example from somebody I did a little consulting with a few weeks ago. This person I met with for the last 6-7 years has been buying lists, scraping lists, talking to people and gathering emails in a less than effective manner, according to today's standards. And they built a list of about 15,000 people that then they were emailing 3 or 4 times a week, invitations to their webinars, offers, to talk to them about their services, other educational things. Conceptually, they had some of the components of effective email marketing. The challenge is when I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, we were well past the 60-day mark of this new policy. And I reached out to this person because I'm on their list. I know them personally. And I said, hey, you have been in my spam box for weeks. And in the past, you weren't. So, hey, happy to just take a peek at this and give you my perspective so we can help you with it. And what we found is that they were sending, their regular cadence to this 15,000 name list, and their open rates and click rates were dropping because they were ending up in the spam box because Google, and we'll just say, I'm just going to try to come up with an acronym, but the mailbox providers, all of them are saying, oh, this person is sending unwanted email. The vast majority of people on this email list are never opening it, or their marketing is a spam, or they're just not interacting. And so the open rates and then the revenue of this person I know was dropping. And so across the board, if you continue to email market that way and you continue to ignore these new requirements, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to send from your main domain. I watched another person that I'm on their list. I don't have the close personal relationship. Otherwise, I would have reached out and said, hey, let's at least take a peek at this. I watched another person who was sending from, we'll make up the examples here, like mybusinessname.com. That was their email domain that they were sending from. And then all of a sudden they started ending up in my spam box. I was like, all right, well, clearly they are unaware of or choosing not to follow the new standards. And I was like, all right, well, is what it is. And then a week or so later, I noticed they were sending from my-businessname.com. They bought a new domain. And then in like 2 weeks, that domain ended up in my spam box too. So I'm going to explain what is happening with that kind of scenario so you don't ineffectively believe that if you blow up one of your domains, you can just buy a new domain and keep sending off your cold list or the list that people aren't opening. It's not actually a cold list in marketer terms, but it's a list that people are uninterested. You have uninterested people on there that you're sending unwanted email. The reason that the person I was observing got their second domain also blocked, and ultimately they may get blacklisted, blocked into an other folder or spam. Your spam folder is kind of a level 1 penalty. Your level 2 penalty is you keep sending and you keep ending up in the spam box, and Google's like, all right, well, you're not following the rules. So you will no longer deliver at all to any users on our, the billions of people that have Gmail addresses. And so ultimately, this person, I could tell observationally from the outside, it appears as if they said, oh, well, like this domain isn't delivering. I'm sure they talked to some ill-informed tech person or marketing person, said, oh, just buy a new domain and you'll be fine. Google knows, and Yahoo knows, Microsoft and Apple, they all know where you are, who you are, what your IP address is, all your cookies, your user accounts. They have enough data about you that if you just switch and buy a new domain, and, I was one of the bad actors not following process, which we are, of course, but pretending I was, they go, oh, well, Gabe thought he could just email off a new domain. Nope, not going to work. We know it's you. It's your same IP, credit card, address, user behavior. You could completely try to trick the system. But if you're trying to send to the same list, then you've already immediately identified yourself as the owner of the same owner. It's not, and you're probably sending similar content. So there's so many data points around us business owners and marketers that switching a domain is actually not a good idea. And you can get the next domain blacklisted even faster. And that's what happened as I observed this person who unfortunately does not have effective marketing things in place. Additionally, last but not least on kind of what you need to know here is that inside of Gmail, they are testing this quite a bit. And they're saying, hey, Gabe, you haven't opened these emails from Domino's in the last month. Do you want to unsubscribe? They're automatically prompting me to get off lists that I don't engage with. So this is happening, and across the board, the bottom line from all the mailbox providers is you absolutely need to make sure you're sending to people that want to hear from you, and you're sending them things that they want to hear about and they're engaging with, and you're not blasting people that don't open your emails because they're not interested. As a reminder, do not buy lists and put them on your newsletter list. Do not automatically add people to your newsletter just because you emailed them once. Do not automatically add people because they booked an appointment with you. All of those things used to be effective, and they are highly ineffective, and they are annoying. And you don't want to annoy people that you're trying to serve and do business with, right? So To avoid the consequences, and we're going to get into some more specifics here. And as you have questions, drop those in the chat, drop those in comments, and we will get those answered. But as email marketers, which that is any of us that do marketing or own a business, you need to authenticate your email with proper DNS records. We're going to walk through the specific records, and I'm going to talk about some caveats and things you definitely need to be aware of with that, because that is done properly will help you. Done it improperly will super hurt you. The second thing is you need to have very easy unsubscribe options. It should be clear in the footer of your email at minimum. And if you are in the process of trying to optimize your list to make sure you are sending to the people that want to hear from you, then I would encourage you to put your unsubscribe at the top of your email at the bottom. So at the top, I've seen great messages that say, no longer interested in receiving this email, click here to unsubscribe. That may, break your little marketer's heart, but in reality, if they don't want to hear from you, then they don't want to hear from you. So give them the option to go away, because you're just annoying them and you're wasting time and money. And ultimately, you're going to damage your credibility as a sender. So very easy to unsubscribe options are key. And ensure you're sending email that subscribers really want, they open and they click. Because again, we talked about in the relatively near future, you are only going to be able to have good tracking metrics off of your own properties that people click, that you can track external from your email marketing software. There's not a timeline on that, but all the indicators and all the early signs and all the little bit of research that is coming out shows that that is coming. So it's, even if that doesn't come, which I would just be absolutely shocked, it would still be better to design your email marketing strategy in such a way that people are clicking and I know what they're engaging with, because that will give you higher quality data, even if this old metric of opens and clicks secondarily stays in place, which the odds of it staying are incredibly low. So those are the things that we definitely want to avoid. What we're going to dive into, and I've done a little bit of a longer introduction here, but we're going to go through the technical factors of what you need to set up as far as DNS technical aspects. We're going to talk about list management, reaching the people that really want to hear from you. And then we're going to walk through engaging content, and make sure you stay on to the end. I'm going to try to balance being thorough and deep on the things we need to cover in more depth, and also concise enough that we don't spend the next 24 hours talking about email, because I probably could. But stay till the end, because if any of this feels overwhelming or you're stuck, we're going to walk through some resources that could help you really be impactful as it relates to your email marketing. So I'd love to share those with you. All right. So step one in this 3-part process they're going to walk through is setting up the required records and other safety measures you need to have DNS wise. And your required records now are all 4 of these. In the past, you just had to set up your DNS with the proper MX records. But now you absolutely must have all of these set up correctly. Your MX records, which I'll get into specifics and kind of give some examples of how this works, are what you've always had to have in place and was the minimum requirement that was always enforced in order for you to send a newsletter from, let's say, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Drip, Keep. I don't know, there's a gazillion email marketing platforms. They're all the same in the sense that in order to send from there and to be able to receive an email back. So our emails are at bmeweb.com. Like if you want to email me, Gabe Arnold at bmeweb.com, feel free to, by the way, I'll be happy to chat with you. Then the MX record says that I'm able to receive emails at that domain. So it's just a technical setting that says, oh, this email is going out to this domain. Are there records that say where to send it? My MX record connects to my mailbox provider, which is Google, and I can receive messages. That has always been a requirement to have in place. Your SPF, which we'll get into specifics of what these are, and your DKIM, these are validation records. And these validate that you actually own the domain and you can send from it as well. And then your DMARC this is the biggest one that has not been enforced. And this is about validating that the email you are sending is being received properly and that you're auditing deliverability on it. So those are the records that are important. These are technical, and I'll just make my strong recommendation. Unless you are already strong in DNS, I wouldn't recommend doing this on your own, because you could block your own sending immediately. You could cause challenges. There's a lot of aspects of this that, unless you're familiar with it, it takes experience to do this right. Like, you can Google this, you can look things up on YouTube, and if you're tech savvy, you may pull it off, but there's some nuance to how this is set up, and it takes experience to do well. But these are your required DNS records. Your MX record directs your mail to the mail server. Most of the time, or to be clear, all of the time, if you go sign up for a new Gmail address, Google already has the MX records tied to that. And so you can send and receive email from that. MX is mail exchange record, like we have there. So if you just get a free account from Outlook.com or Microsoft or Yahoo or Gmail, MX records are already built into their system. So if I want to email, Gabe Arnold 747-829@gmail.com, the records are already there for me to receive email. Now, if I'm using Google's business product, which is Google Workspace, and I buy myfancybusinessname.com, I have to go into my DNS records and add the proper MX records to be able to receive email there. So that is what your MX records do. And essentially what they look like, this is a little bit small on the screen, but some providers will only tell you to set up one MX record. That is not technically wise, because you don't have any redundancy if that record fails or if there's any issue with that routing. So Google always has you set up 5 or 6 MX records. And then if you're sending from other providers, like we use a platform called High Level, and we use a platform called SendGrid, those are also going to need proper records enabled. So the more software platforms you have where you want to receive email into those platforms, you need to have a proper MX record set up for those. I realize what I'm going through is very technical. So do put your questions in so I can get them answered to the best of my ability without having all the context of your situation. And also, it'll just be helpful for anybody else that's having the same question you are, because I have worked with hundreds of tech folks over the last 20 years. And to be honest, only a few dozen really understand this. This is not like common knowledge or things that people use a lot. So don't feel bad not having all the answers here. It took me a lot of time and experience breaking and fixing things to understand how this works. But that is your first primary record. That has always been a hard requirement. Your SPF record is the sender policy framework. This defines what servers and domains are allowed to send an email on behalf of your domain. This makes it harder for spammers to send phishing emails or to impersonate you or your company. Only a handful of businesses have this set up correctly. And one easy way to tell that records are not set up correctly is I have people email me, and there's a big red question mark as the icon for their email avatar, because they haven't validated that it's really them sending the message. Essentially, if you use, I know people use Kajabi, High Level, again, all the email box providers, but even if you're using a course platform, and you're sending email, an SPF record says, yes, I, Gabe Arnold, signed up for Kajabi, and this is my account, and I've created this technical link validation record that says I own both these platforms. You might be renting or using a SaaS platform for either one, but I own and have access to these platforms. And so yes, it's really me sending from Gabe Arnold at bmeweb.com, even though I'm sending this email from Kajabi or whatever platform you're using, right? So this validates that you really are who you are, and it makes your emails deliver better into people's inboxes. Without this, in the past, Google, all the big providers let it go at some level. Now they are really cracking down on this. And so you're not going to be able to effectively send to the vast majority of your list. And even you may not be able to send small one-off emails or more transactional stuff out of other platforms if you don't have this in place. So what these look like is there's tokens and strings in here for validation and security. So I obviously have those blocked off, but you'll see, typically you're going to see this V equals SPF something and include these parameters. These are typically generated from the software you're using. So again, using Kajabi as the example, because that's what's coming to mind for me, is if you were going to send through Kajabi or any other course software platform like that, you'd log into Kajabi, they would give you an SPF record. Then you'd go over to your DNS management platform, which may either be, it might be Cloudflare, and it might be on your domain with GoDaddy or whatever domain you provide. But wherever your DNS is controlled is ultimately where you're going to set these FPF records, and they need to be set up correctly in order to validate that it's really you sending from this other platform instead of just your main email box. Next record is your DKIM record. DKIM stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail, and the record lets the receiver of an email know that the message was sent and authorized by the domain owner. It's a double verification on top of SPF records in some senses, but it's more universal because even in Google Workspace, which is our business email platform by Gmail, we generate a DKIM record there and put it in our DNS just to double validate that, yes, we are using Google Workspace. It really is a BME team member emailing when we're emailing from our inbox. And very few businesses have had this set up correctly. And again, this is affecting deliverability, and it's creating a score or grade for Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Apple. And it's telling them if you are compliant and if you're a trusted person using email, let alone if you're doing email marketing. So that is the other record. And DKIMs look conceptually similar to your SPF records, because they say, here's your domain key. It's a text record in your DNS. It's going to say, here's your, this is what version this is. This is your DKIM1. And then there's other parameters in here that are set as well. There's a fairly long string of information that is a validated key. And in a lot of these records, there's actually a longer string that's either a 256 or 512 bit, meaning like there's a bunch of strings. It's almost like a password that is revalidated back to the provider. So again, you wouldn't want to expose these or share these publicly, but they are a key part of validating your records and showing that you are a compliant person using email in general, and of course, email marketing. The last record that we're going to talk through is a DMARC. It's a domain-based message authentication reporting and conformance record. It's a long, fancy phrase, but basically it just helps you control what happens if a message fails authentication. So if Ashley owned Ashley's beautiful city view photography.com and she is sending emails out, and I'm one of those recipients on her list at BME Web, if her message passes through and she has her DMARC records that are validations and reporting delivery or lack of delivery to other mailbox providers. So if she has her DMARC set up then improperly and the email gets through to me, she's going to get a response back that says 0 messages were quarantined. Everything was delivered successfully. That's conceptually what the status message will say. If she doesn't follow all these practices we're talking about today and starts just emailing things people don't want, and there's issues with her, other DNS records and all her technical setup, she sends an email and doesn't get to some people, then a DMARC that is properly set up will audit 5 or 10% of the total messages that she sent in that blast and will report back a segment and say, oh, like 5 messages failed or 10 messages failed. That's going to give Ashley a heads up to know, hey, something's not delivering. I'm going to check my technical settings. I'm going to look at my list and see who's opening. I'm going to dig in and see what's happening here because my DMARC is saying we sent these messages, but they didn't all make it. There's a problem. And so this is another hard requirement now. Again, in the past, your MX record was really your only hard requirement. Now you have to have your MX records set up correctly, your SPF, your DKIM, and your DMARC record as well. And virtually nobody has had this set up properly. If I were to audit 100 of my friends on Facebook that I know own businesses and do marketing, I would be shocked if 5 of them had this. I would be absolutely shocked. And so a DMARC record, same thing. It's a long string here, so I didn't have to blur much of this out, but it says this is a DMARC record so that it interacts with all the other technology platforms and mailbox providers properly. it says we're going to quarantine a certain amount of messages. And that doesn't mean that like messages don't go out. Quarantining meetings that we're going to audit them from origination to destination and see if the the data passing the email, all the information is passed through correctly. And same thing here. There's some parameters in here that if you set up incorrectly, you'll actually not deliver to anybody on your list, which wouldn't be good. Or you will ineffectively send a signal to the mailbox providers that you're not tracking your DMARC, process correctly, and you'll send, flags there. So those are the technical records. For those of you that have great technical support on hand, you can audit these, and there's tools out there to validate and verify if things are set up correctly. For those of you that don't have that kind of support, again, hang on till the end of our time here together, because I'm going to walk through with you the options that you have and how we can support you in resolving that. A couple other safety precautions. We touched on these, but to go a little bit deeper, make sure that you have clear unsubscribe options. If you're not sure about the health of your list, again, I'd encourage you to have a short line above your message, your emails that says, if you no longer want to receive emails from us, click here to unsubscribe. I know that probably may throw some people off and go, oh, I don't want to lose somebody off my list. But here's the thing. You lost them a long time ago when their life headed a different direction. They no longer need your business services. They read all your great content and they don't care about it anymore. There's a bunch of reasons, but they're not reading your content. They're not your subscriber now. So why are you trying to take up space in their inbox or in their spam box? Or why are you sending to people that don't want to talk to you? At some point, we just have to acknowledge the fact that our time and journey with that person person that is a part of our world on our list, their time is, our journey is over with them. And so we should make it easy for them to leave instead of annoying them and hanging on like a clingy ex. Nobody wants that, right? Also, I've seen this strategy over the last handful of years, and it's completely ineffective and always has been, but it's gotten less penalization in the past. Avoid using really long footers, because some quote unquote guru that doesn't know anything about email marketing started teaching years ago, oh, just put this long disclaimer, like your whole life story or your about us page as the footer of your email, either in really small text or in light text that nobody can read. You'll see this in emails when there's like the message or a few lines or the thing they sent, and then you could keep scrolling, but there's nothing there. There is actually something there. Or you'll see this when you see the short message, and then it's like, here's my life story, and here's how you can sign up to my 18 different programs, and blah, 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 blah. For a really short time, years and years ago, this was a way to trick the email box provider's algorithm into making it look like you wrote this epic email personally, and it's long, and so it's important, and somebody needs to read it. Don't do this anymore, okay? Anything that feels spammy is spammy. And think about your relationship with the people that are on your list. They are not an email, just data on a list. There is a person on your list, and they don't have any interest in reading your long disclaimer, your long story, or scrolling through a blank email over and over. You would never do that to a friend. I would never, or a coworker. Like, I email Ashley stuff for work quite a bit. And so I would never write her an email like, hey, can you come up to the workshop and, help me and, be around for that. And by the way, copy and paste, here's my life story again that I sent you last time I emailed you. She would think I have, mental problems. Maybe I do. But on that front, don't do that. Like, don't treat people on your list like they're idiots, and don't act like an idiot. That will save you. So do not do those things. The results of noncompliance, we dug into this a little bit earlier, is your domain may be blacklisted by your provider. Lots of providers, meaning like eventually you just won't be able to email the big four email providers: Google, Microsoft, Facebook, or not Facebook, Apple, and Yahoo. And so, meaning like you can buy all the domains you want, and it will take a long break for you to be able to try again. New domains will be blacklisted. We talked about that. You're not smarter than big tech, and you're not smarter than humans. And think about how you want to be treated as a human. You can't game a system that is built for humans. I tell people the same thing about social media, Facebook, any platform. Email is to support, encourage, educate, sell to, prospect. So all these good things we can do. It's for building relationships. And so even if the big tech companies didn't have all these new compliance things that we all need to follow. If somebody tried to unsubscribe and you didn't really unsubscribe them, which I've had that happen, and we won't go into that too far, but don't do that. Like if somebody says stop or unsubscribe in a reply without clicking your button, click the button for them or go to your list and take them off. If somebody clicks unsubscribe, they should be off instantaneously. Unless you're running $1 billion company, don't give me this crap about your name will be removed in the next 7 to 10 days. No, everything can be done instantly. So again, like if you were emailing somebody and they said stop, and then you just changed domains and emailed them again, they would be even more annoyed with you. So don't worry about trying to game a technical system. Just be a good human. Okay. That's like the basics of email marketing. We'll keep coming back to that. I have seen way too many people end up in the spam box because they think that they can just keep operating the old way. And that doesn't work in life and business. What you are doing today will not work for you next year or next decade. It's not going to work in marketing either. So non-compliance is not a good idea, to say the least. Second thing is we're going to talk about kind of your second step here is reaching the people that really want to hear from you. And so we've gotten through the tech stuff. I did put that up front intentionally because it's kind of heavy. I know there's a lot there, but we will support you. There's plenty of options, but make sure your tech is in line and set up the way it's supposed to be, because that's really, really crucial. When we talk about email marketing, you're going to see these themes come up a lot today because they're important. In the early days, like list size mattered because eventually if you kept emailing somebody, they would open one of your emails. So you could take a 10 or 15% open rate, and you could, over the course of a month, you might be able to push that to 20 or 25% because you just keep adding names to your list. You keep emailing, and email when it came out was novel and people wanted to open every email they got. And I'm showing my age here, but that was a long, long time ago. Then, I'd have to look at when email came out. I think it was commercially popular in the 90s, if I remember right. But we're like 30, 40 years later after the creation of it. And now 10, 15 years ago, email was still kind of cool and you could get some engagement. Now email is just another noisy channel. So building a list by adding people to it without them saying, I want to hear from you, I want to be on your email list, I signed up for something and I want follow-up information, is not going to work. So the spray and pray method didn't work. And I'm not just making this up from theory. I bought lists and built newsletter lists this way because it was an effective path before. And so don't worry about what you've done in the past and don't feel bad about anything that is no longer compliant. It's okay. You did whatever worked. We all do whatever works to be in business and try to reach new people we can serve, but that no longer works. So unless somebody expressly asks to be on your list, don't add them to your list. Okay. That's the simplest way. Temporarily, and in the past, this gave more opens, more engagements, but it was just temporarily effective. And so this is kind of early days of what email marketing was. And some of this survived all the way through 2023. But now in 2024, the goal is to truly just engage with people who want to hear from you, with, deeper engagements, better results, and from being compliant. I have friends with list sizes of all different sizes. And I have friends that have, the one I mentioned had about 15,000 people on their list, and they're making no money from it because they're not following best practices and they're not paying attention to the relational aspect of email marketing. I have another friend who 2 or 3 years ago sold a business for, I didn't get all the specifics, but I can pretty easily tell that they sold their business for about $250,000. It was started as a blog and a podcast and a website. They built it up, got a ton of traffic. And at their height, they had 1,800 people on their email list. And that list produced $30,000 to $40,000 a year. My friend's list, who has 15,000 people on it, he's making no money from it. So remember, list size is almost irrelevant. It's actually about the connection you have with the people on your list, the relationships you have. If you treat each one of them like a person and you invest in them, you will get good returns on that at the right time. If you treat your list like a bunch of names and how do I get more of these texts that looks like emails in this list, you're dehumanizing the whole experience and you will get a dehumanized result. So 2024 is definitely the changeover. The change is the market is way more sophisticated. We've talked about that. We're dealing with way more sophisticated buyers across the board. Nobody trusts email like they did early on because it's been so overused and abused. And the noisier it gets with all the advertising, all the exposure, all the social media, all the things we get, we have evolved as humans to train ourselves to ignore anything that's irrelevant. So relevancy has to be super high. And ultimately, we all want to be happy and engage with things that we like and enjoy. And so we're going to be served more of that. All the social media platforms. So TikTok is a great champion of this right now. TikTok figures out what you like faster than any other platform and serves you exactly what you like and nothing that you don't like, compared to other platforms like Facebook does a decent job with that, but their algorithm isn't as strong. And so we could pull up data, but TikTok is absolutely smashing Facebook right now because they have a higher relevancy and they're serving people what they enjoy. And it's why it's a massively powerful platform. It's why it's in the news, and people are complaining about it. It's causing massive disruption because they have figured out how to give people what they want. So make sure you follow suit, because your market, I don't care what market or industry you're in, your market expects to get highly relevant, engaging content from you. Otherwise, you will not matter or be on their radar at all. So when it comes to managing the list, let me get the right thing pulled up here. Remove inactive subscribers. So on this one, Ashley, why don't you share for a minute what we just recently did, and just walk everyone through what we did as far as removing people that were not interested in from hearing from us anymore.
Yeah, so there's quite a few ways that you can kind of go about removing inactive subscribers. A lot of the time, people just go through, take a look at their list. They can even enable automations to help with this. But essentially, if people haven't opened within 30 days or a couple of weeks, there's an automation that automatically takes them off your list. If you want to be a little bit more strategic about it and really reach and, again, build that relationship, because that's super important in 2024, what you can also do is go ahead and create a list cleanup series. So we went ahead, and I believe it was about 6 or 7 emails. We sent out an email blast over about a week and a half, and we essentially said, hey, with all of these changes, we want to make sure that we're reaching the people that want to hear from us, because we care about connecting with you, care about creating a relationship with you. And so if you would like to still hear from us, click here to resubscribe. And we've got tons of people resubscribing to us because we were super open and candid about it. But we also had quite a few people that left, and that's okay, because, again, the more people that you reach out to that don't want to hear from you, it affects the people who do want to hear from you, because you may be blocked by a specific email provider and you don't want that to happen. So that's what we went through. Obviously, there's tons of different ways to do it, but it was really effective. And it's important to not get discouraged when those numbers go down, because, again, it really helps you build that connection further with the people who actually want to hear from you.
Yep, exactly. And list size is a vanity metric unless you have extremely high engagement. So interestingly enough, I'll share some numbers from our main list, and there's some factors around this. One is I went through some business seasons and cycles where I was not paying attention to email marketing as much as I am now. I don't believe we should or shouldn't do things. I think there's seasons to do things. So I know, looking back, there's a season of a couple of years where I just was not focusing on that. But over the last year and a half, or so, we've really invested in that, built it up, tested some things. And we had around 4,000 people on the list, and we have been getting open rates of 35 to 40%. That sound accurate right now, Ashley? Yeah. And so, we were getting, essentially, over the course of a few days, do the math in my head, we were getting, 1,000 plus opens. What we realized, though, as we were starting to evaluate these changes that are coming through and the changes we were going to make, is that of those people that were opening, one, we know that stat's going to go away at some point, but they were just opening and moving on. There was no engagement, no clicking, or anything like that. So we walked through this list cleanup, and we're going to end up probably with only 300 or 400 names tops left. So we're dropped about 90% of our list. Now, we're not deleting that old list. We're going to use it for other targeting and other purposes, but we're not going to email to people that aren't opening our emails, because, again, we talked about that's a waste of time. what's going to happen to our open rate and click rate is going to go through the roof. And there's something really important about that. One is it will validate that you're talking to the right people. But two, the mailbox providers monitor immediately after you send a blast. So let's say you send out to 500 people. And we'll just use Google as the example here, but all the mailbox providers will do this. Within the first 20, 30 minutes, if a bunch of people on your list open that email, then Google will actually change the placement of your email and move it from your promotions tab to the inbox, because you've sent a signal that a lot of people on this list want to read this. So it's a self-fulfilling activity. When you send something and a bunch of people open it, more people open it. When you send something and nobody opens it, less people open it. It's just how the platform works. It's how humans work, actually, and the technology mimics that. So we are going to have open rates and click rates through the roof. We have a very small list, and I know that that list is going to produce us more revenue than the big list, because I've seen this happen over and over in my entrepreneurial journey. I've seen it happen over and over for clients. So I would encourage you to detach from any meaning or ego or anything around having a big list. It's irrelevant. What matters is who is opening your emails, reading them, and clicking them. So remove inactive subscribers is the first thing to do to manage your list. Ignore, irrelevant vanity metrics. We've hit on that pretty hard. So don't worry about your list size. Over time, pay less attention to opens and start paying attention to click rates above open rates. Make that shift over the next 18 to 24 months, and you're going to be in good shape. Enable automations. This is really key, because you can set up in most email marketing platforms, modern ones, and all the ones we support our clients with, you can set up an automation. So if I send my friend Michelle here an email for 3 weeks and she doesn't open, my software can automatically move her to a list that I no longer send to every week. I might test sending something once a month or every couple of months to see if she was just out of the loop, busy, and wants to get back engaged. But most likely I'm going to take that data and use it for other tracking purposes and other things. But have an automation in place that inside of 30 days, let me back up. The assumption and the context here is that you are sending a weekly email newsletter, which is ideally kind of the bare minimum you want to send. So if you're sending a weekly email and after 3 weeks, one of the humans, the people on your list, is not opening it, then just acknowledge the fact that they're busy and they're uninterested, and have an automation that pulls them off the list, so you stop sending to them and annoying them and filling up their box, because they're either not seeing it or they're seeing it and archiving it or deleting it before they even open it. So you're wasting their time. So don't waste people's time, and you will be a more effective email marketer. So enable those types of automations. We help our clients with those all the time, because you can go in and manually check once a month. But if you're like me and trying to run a business, that's probably not the thing you have the most time for every month. So use the software appropriately. This can be done in almost all modern email marketing platforms. And the last thing is honor your unsubscribe requests. We touched on this earlier, but I want to hit it again, because too often I see people that don't pay attention to this. If somebody tells you to stop or unsubscribe me, or I don't know how I got on your list, that's your sign. Take them off the list. If they hit unsubscribe, don't send them through some other series to try to bring them back. Just let them unsubscribe. Let them go away. They're taking up space, and they're not interested in what you're doing right now. So make sure those are honored. Interestingly, going back to one of the stories I was telling earlier, this person that I don't have a direct personal relationship with, I unsubscribed from their first list because I've just been in a season of clearing out things I never read. And I want to support all my friends in business and all the people that I even just have subscribed with one time by being in integrity of being on their list and engaging or not. And so I've just been unsubscribing for a bunch of stuff. I unsubscribed from this person's list 3 times and they never took me off the list. Then they ended up in spam. And then their next domain they bought ended up in spam. So it tells me I could be the only case on their list, could be wrong, but it tells me that there's a high potential that they're just ignoring what people are asking them to do. And now nobody's going to hear from them. And I know, based on what I've seen from the outside of this business, and I have some friends who are friends with them, I know that this person generates at least half their revenue from their email. And I'm confident, unfortunately, that they're losing revenue and they're losing the ability to impact people that do want to hear from them because they're not following these best practices. So don't be that person. It won't help anybody. So as we look here at, was there something? Yes. Yeah, I just covered that. Perfect. So step 3, we're going to get into the type of content that you want to send, crafting emails that subscribers, those people who want to get value, want to hear from you. We're going to dive into that. And yeah, Michelle said she's had the same thing happen. She's tried to unsubscribe and didn't get unsubscribed. Just don't be that person. Okay. It's like if you're over late and somebody's like, hey, probably time to wrap it up. I got to go to bed. Don't hang out longer. They want to go to bed. Like, just honor their request. Okay. Maybe that's showing my age because I like to go to bed early sometimes. So talking today's market, the average consumer sees over 10,000 marketing messages per day. And your job is to break through the noise and be somebody that they notice. And this number has gone up dramatically in the last 10 years. It used to be 3,000. It used to be 5,000. It used to be 6,000. 10,000 marketing messages a day. That's just unreal. I know it's true because I'll sit and start to count them in an hour. It's ridiculous how much advertising we see. And more noise is not going to help anything. So you really want to have, you really want to connect with people authentically and stand out. So the impact email method is to make sure you're intriguing, you're memorable, you're personalized, your stuff is actionable, concise, consistent, and transparent. And we're going to walk through these here. Intriguing, the message of your email will never matter if it's not opened. And so it's really important to make your subject line intriguing enough to make people want to know, what you have to say. And writing for your medium, meaning like writing copy, writing messaging that is directly relevant and is going to work well in email marketing is important. Don't copy and paste your blog post into your email with the same title that would go on your blog or on your website. Don't take your direct social media post and copy and paste it over. It's not going to perform well as compared to being intentional about using it appropriately on the right platform. Ashley, what have you noticed with subject lines with us and with our clients that, you can kind of expound upon this a little bit more?
Yeah, so subject lines is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I actually had an aha moment a couple weeks ago. We've been reading Breakthrough Advertising, which if anybody has read that book, it's fantastic. And if you haven't, I would definitely suggest it. But essentially, there was a whole chapter in there talking about how it's really important to write for the medium that you're writing on. So as an example, there was this really famous marketer, name's not coming up for me right now, but they used to specifically write in newspapers, specifically newspaper ads. And the problem that they were having is that they weren't working because they looked like ads. However, when they changed their ad to be black and white, when they changed it to have like a really bold headline with a subheading and make it look like it was supposed to be in the newspaper, I believe that they ran that ad for multiple issues and didn't have to change it at all because people read it because they were like, yep, this is what I'm here for. Same with social media, right? We've been seeing a lot of people use user generated content, UGC, and that's essentially when people will use testimonials from their audience as ads. And the reason for that is because we're so used to watching unboxings, testimonials, people giving reviews on these products. And so by the actual company using that, it seems more natural, right? It's not an ad in your face on social media. Last but not least, with email, you don't ever go to your email to find an ad, right? I mean, maybe around Black Friday, you're looking for a coupon, but it's likely that you're not going to your email like, I really want to go find an ad today in my email. No, you're going there to check on payments, receipts, if your order is being delivered. And so I did test out something recently, which if any of you saw that, that would be awesome. But I recently tested out saying, your order is here, your landing page recipe. And by using your order is here, we got, I believe, and this was before we did the list cleanup, but we had like a 35% open rate on that, which is fantastic. And for any of you who don't know, the average open rate is around 20. So that was 15% higher than what the average is for the industry. And again, it's because you wrote for the medium. People don't go on email to look for those different things. Obviously, don't overuse it because you don't want to lose trust and think that you're constantly pulling one over on your audience. But at the same time, it's a really great way to get people in and get people interested in something to think about, not just in email, but in all types of marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Ashley, it's great advice because if you don't have a relevant, engaging, intriguing subject line, nothing gets open, nothing happens. It didn't work. Second thing is Be memorable. The average consumer receives 120 emails per day, which is mind-blowing to me because I have tracked how much email I've gotten over the years. And like I said recently, I've been unsubscribing from stuff and cleaning things up. And I even use an AI tool that I've used for 4 or 5 years to sort all my email for me. And when I was tracking it kind of at its peak, I got between 500 and 600 emails a day, and I saw probably close to 100. But I'm a business owner and I subscribe to a lot of things, and like I'm always curious about stuff. But this is the average number that everybody is on your list. So if they're a business owner, they're probably getting more. If they're a consumer, they're getting around this. And so out of 120 emails on average, how are you going to stand out? Be memorable, be weird, tell about what your kid or your dog did yesterday, use a real story, be you authentically and be weird, and don't use AI to write all your emails. Like, yes, AI is great for ideas. Yes, you can actually tune it up to really help you accelerate the process, but the origin of the message, the story, everything you're sharing should be truly from you. There's too much reliance on AI to do everybody's thinking and strategic, efforts right now. And it's not working. And it's so instantly recognizable that it oftentimes just doesn't even hit the inbox. When people scan it and go, oh, cool, another formulaic email, next, then you've actually damaged your trust with them. So be memorable by being you. Personalization, being personalized, keep in mind who your audience is and join the conversation in their head. This comes from really understanding your audience, talking to them frequently, doing market research. Stop talking at them and saying, here's what you need to do. Don't be the one, standing up and being the know-it-all. Instead, join the conversation and share relevant examples. I follow somebody who regularly puts out content that is just super powerful, and it's clear to me it's their main marketing method, because they have a very simple website that people only visit after they've followed all their other content. And this person immediately drops into, here's what I did for a client today. Here's the conversation I had and help somebody understand how to solve this problem. They just are sharing real world stories and their experience, and story is the original human technology. Back on, I read recently about some new cave drawing that somebody found somewhere. That's just a story on a wall. And it's been around for thousands and thousands and maybe millions a year, however long we've been around. And so if you use story authentically and effectively, that is the original technology and is the most powerful technology you can have at your fingertips as a human, and of course, as a business owner and a marketer. So show them you understand their pain points, what they're looking for. Make your stuff actionable. Like we talked about, Apple Privacy Opens is the precursor to open rates going away. And so having a clear call to action, a CTA in your emails will show that your audience is engaged. So you can send an email out and tell part of the story and say, read the rest here on my Facebook post, or check out this video, or go to this page, which as marketers we would call a landing page, right? But go to this page to learn more about this process or this product or this option. All of you that registered today, hit a landing page from a link that I gave you, an email or on social or where you found it. So I was like, hey, if you want to check this out, go here. And I can look at that landing page and say, oh, cool, like this many people visited it, this many people signed up. I have objective empirical data of how my messaging is doing. So make sure things are actionable. Be concise. Confusing your audience is a one-way ticket to unsubscribes. If they don't understand what you're trying to educate them on, help them on, serve them with, or deliver to them, keep your messages concise and valuable. Ashley is a great support to me on this because I still write some of our content some of the time, and I just like to go on and on and on and say what's ever in my head. But Ashley goes through and cleans it up and makes it a little bit more concise. Don't feel like there's a set length for your emails. Also, don't go on and on. Think about, honor and respect the fact that you are emailing another human and they can put the pieces together at some level. So I don't need to explain everything ad nauseum in depth. I can talk about the concepts and of course say like, hey, if you want to learn more, I have a YouTube video about it, or email back, I can share more details. But keep being concise and memorable and actionable in mind, all the things we're talking about in the impact model here, because then people will want to read your emails because they're not going to feel overwhelmed the second they open them because they have to scroll 16 times to read the whole message. They won't do that in the vast majority of cases. There's exceptions to everything here, but they will likely not do that. Be consistent. Don't email your list just when you have a promotion or when you're feeling inspired and be like, oh, I should email my list. That's a great way to just damage your relationship. It's like that friend that just calls you only when they need to borrow money or when they want to pick your brain, but they don't want to pay for your advice. Don't be that person. Instead, be consistent. And, consistency in the ideal is once a week as a baseline for most businesses, but know your audience. And there are some cases where once a month is a great start, or every couple of weeks. Doing less than once a month, there's no point in my experience. So that's for the bare minimum, but target doing a once a week email and don't overthink it. Like, say, here's a lesson I learned this week. Here's a great conversation I had with a client this week. Here's something new that's going on. Oh, and by the way, like every third or fourth email, hey, if you want to check this out, we have this promotion, we have a special, you can engage with us, you can be a part of this. Those are the types of things that will work well, but be consistent with what you do, because that's what builds trust. Be transparent. Clickbait, unrealistic promises, or false information will just damage your reputation. So build real connections. Don't send an email out. We would never send an email with the subject line, you won the prize. And then it's just some marketing email about have to sign up something to maybe get the prize. Like, that would be incongruent. You can absolutely be weird and creative and get people's attention with subject lines, but you always have to deliver on the promise. So don't make claims that you don't directly support early on in the email, because then people just know that you're just, you're the boy who cried wolf, and you just made something up, and nobody's going to believe you anymore. So those are the keys there for impactful email marketing. So I know this is a little bit small, but I will actually have you go through this, Ashley, and share kind of the difference of, what impact and action looks like.
Yeah, so these are screenshots from 2 separate emails. One was written in 2024, about a couple weeks ago, and one was written in 2022. So as you can see, the first subject line here is want more conversions. Pretty simple. Something to keep in mind with subject lines: do not make them too long, because most people check their emails on mobile, and if it's too long, it's going to be cut off and it's ineffective. However, taking a look here, it just says, hi friend, over the last few days, we've been discussing traffic sources and websites. I've had one thing on my mind: conversion rates. If you look at the average conversion rate, it's about 2%. That means for every 100 people who click on your website, only 2 people actually follow through and commit to contacting you or purchasing something. Only 2. Why? Well, I'll tell you. You can contact me here. Pretty short and sweet. As you can see, it's saying want more conversions, and we are delivering on that promise, but it's going to take a little bit more time. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side, the subject line is, this is what you came here for. Automatically, you're going to be like, well, what did I come here for? You're going to click on it. It gives interest, right? And again, it's not super long. It's pretty concise, but it's going to bring people in. It says, if you're reading this, congratulations. You're 10 steps ahead of every other entrepreneur who decided to skip this email. Automatically, you're like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to keep reading, right? You want every sentence of your email to make them read the next sentence. And that's something to keep in mind. It's a practice. It's hard. It takes some time. But once you learn how to do it, it's really going to help. It says, because in this simple email, I'm going to teach you how I went from having 0 leads, 0 profits, and 0 direction to running a wildly successful business, and how you can too. Before I go any further, I want to note that you can do this. No matter what situation you find yourself in, this simple formula is not if you're lucky sort of, or is not a if you're lucky sort of thing. It's a if you follow these steps and put in the work type of thing. So if you're willing to commit the next few minutes of your time to make a life-changing investment in your future, keep reading. Automatically, you're filtering leads out, right? If you can't commit, then stop reading, right? And the people who continue reading are the people that you want to connect with anyways. And so taking a look at these 2 emails, we'll say the one on the one side is number 1 and the one on the one side is number 2. Now, these are different open rates and different clicks. Again, keep in mind that this was before we did the list cleanup, so these will likely skyrocket a lot more. But these are just 2 occasions of the ones on 2022. As you can see, we have a 5.3% open rate, 16%, which is still pretty good. The clicks are extremely low. And just for context, average in 2024 is a 20% open rate and a 2% click rate. As you can see over here, 2024, we have 34%, a 35%, and the clicks are 16 and 20. So when you create emails that are engaging, emails that tell them exactly what they're going to get, that are transparent, that aren't salesy, the results do show for themselves. Again, it's a craft. It takes some time to learn. Luckily, our team has kind of gone through the ringer, and we've had low open rates. You can see right there, low open rates, low clicks. It's going to happen to everybody. The good thing about email is that you can test as many times as you want. And until you find that groove, you'll be able to really see what works for you and what works for your audience.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, it's really key to test and refine and improve your skill set, because it's a powerful channel and it really, really works well. But you can't ignore it. You can't just use formulaic copy and paste things that other people said work. You actually need to invest in your own brand, voice, and strategy and email to make it successful. So the last step we're going to get into, we won't go too much longer here, but the last step we're going to get into is taking action. And I am wondering if everybody here would be interested in me sharing something that will help you implement all this. If that's the case, drop a comment wherever you're watching the stream here, or put something in chat. I want to make sure everybody's still alive and well. I know we've gone through a lot of valuable content today. So Keith, excellent question. I'm going to actually talk about how you can solve this. So Melissa said yes, she'd like to see more. Awesome. Looks like everybody's ready to walk this through. So Mary, excellent. All right, so I'm just going to take a few minutes and give you some resources and options and support here that will help you implement this. And I'm going to walk through what we provide. Maria said, yep, you're here. Great. We'd like to see you on Hit the Mark. Michelle, perfect. So excellent. So I'm going to walk you through this 8-week email marketing bootcamp. I am personally leading this. I'll always be clear and upfront. Like, sometimes our team leads some of our workshops because they are way better at it. This is something I've only spent 25 years doing, actually. And I lost track of how many emails I sent, but it's in the 50 plus million that I've sent over the years. It might be 100 million at this point, because I stopped tracking like 5 or 6 years ago. But I have been doing email marketing for 25 years, and I want to make sure that everybody here has the opportunity to do this successfully. And so I'm going to walk you through what we're going to cover in the marketing bootcamp. And I'm going to also talk about the time investment and the support you get, because not only are we going to give you email marketing, support through the bootcamp here, but there's some other great things that will help you as well. So in the first 2 weeks, we're going to go through technical support. So Keith asked a great question, and Keith is already a BME crew member. So all of you BME crew members here, you get access to all of this, of course, because you're part of BME crew. For those of you that are not members yet, I'm going to share with you what you will get in your first 8 weeks here, should you choose to make this investment in really leveling up this channel, protecting current revenue and prospecting relationship, and increasing your ability to grow revenue and your connection to your audience. First 2 weeks is technical support. We're going to look at your MX records, your SPF, your DKM, and the DMARC records. They are typically located in one place, Keith. And so we're going to walk through starting next week and exactly how to find those and validate them. In weeks 3 and 4, we're going to go through list management and automation setup. We will explain to you like how to clean up your list if you need to. We're going to talk about building that 30-day, 21 to 30-day, whatever it ends up being, automation, so that if somebody's not opening your emails, they don't want to hear from you, it's okay. And they may not even unsubscribe on their own. We're going to move them off your main list. And what this is going to do is it's going to increase your open and click rates. And they won't be vanity metrics, because they'll be real people that are engaging. And because you're sending email out that the mailbox providers see is getting open more frequently, you're going to increase your open rate from people that want to hear from you. So we're going to do that over 2 weeks. We're doing 2 weeks on each section here, because it's really important to understand the concept, start to implement, and then audit and review and make sure everything is set up correctly. Because one of these done ineffectively will kind of tank your whole email marketing system, which is why I don't recommend people try to do this on their own. As much as there's plenty of things you can learn on your own and try and feel it, this could really cause some damage that would take a lot of time to repair if you don't have guidance. Weeks 5 and 6, I will be teaching all of these, but this is definitely where we'll have Ashley involved too, because she is just a master at email marketing. We're going to teach you how to create valuable content that matches your list and your audience. I'm not going to give you copy and paste things that you should blast out and hope they work that a million other people have done. There's too many quote unquote gurus that aren't gurus that teach that approach. We will not do that. And then week 7 and 8, we're going to help you plan ahead your content strategy brainstorming, so that you don't just go through this 8 weeks and have a great time and send out things and then stall out. We're going to map out for you what it looks like to have great content going out long term. We'll even talk about other support options or things that you want. So technical support is a $486 value. List management and automation setup is a $672 value. Creating valuable content will be a $360 value. And then the content strategy brainstorming is a $349 value. Total value that we're offering inside of this, and of course, I'm going to give everybody an awesome deal here, is $1,867. And on top of that, we're going to give you access to our private community where you can ask questions. You can learn about other marketing strategies that will apply to email and other places. You're going to have the full support of my team throughout the whole week, and I will be live on all the calls for 8 weeks as well. So that's a $226 value. You can get additional support credits, which we will inform you about when you onboard into the workshop here. And then I'm also going to give everybody that signs up before everybody that signs up today, and I honestly don't know how long we're leaving this replay up because we don't leave these up very long anymore, but everybody that signs up today, you'll also get access to a course you can go through at your own speed. It's called the Simple Marketing Method course, and it's a principle-based course that will help you market whatever stage you're at. It's very good for startups, for smaller businesses, but all the principles apply equally as well to the multi-million dollar clients we work with. So it's a principle-based marketing method course that's going to teach you principles. And once you understand the principles, you will be able to choose what things you execute on yourself and where you need to get support. But ultimately, it's a really valuable course that we've taken a lot of folks through over the last 3 or 4 years now. I think it's been around. So total value you're getting for everything is $2,589. In order to join the workshop, it's 2 monthly payments of $200. So I'll walk you through. It's a really simple process here to get started. All you'll need to do is visit bmecrew.com/go. And I've got that up on the screen for everybody here too. And what you'll do is fill out your contact information, and you're going to choose the $200 a month starter level. This workshop is part of BME Crew, where we have a lot of other things we offer as well. But when you sign up through this, we will know that you're in the 8-week workshop, and you're only committing to those 8 weeks. Should you choose to stay on, we'll talk about those options, but there's no requirements. And also for transparency, technically this is a month-to-month service. So if you sign up for 1 month and you're done and you leave, that's on you. You won't get the benefit, and you will probably break your email. So I wouldn't recommend that. But there's absolutely no contract with these workshops and with BME Crew. So you can adjust up or down or pause as you need to. This is built to be flexible to support you. So what you'll do is visit bmecrew.com/go. That will take you right to the checkout page. It's going to say BME Crew. Choose the $200 a month level. We'll talk to you about the other options in case that's valuable to you, but just stick with the lowest priced option there. And then you'll fill all that out. Once you do that, we will onboard you and take you through orientation. We will make sure that you have all the invites and information for the workshops. They are all recorded. They are Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern, but they're all recorded, and you have access to the community where they're shared and everything. So if you can't make all those live, it's really not an issue because you're going to be able to watch it, leave a comment, and me or one of the team members are going to jump in and help you right away. So definitely would love to have you live. On top of that, there's 2 additional calls per week where you can come and get support. I will be on every call for 8 weeks on Wednesdays, but you have 2 other calls at different times too. So you're always going to have live access to get support from my team and I. So that will help you with everything you need as far as it relates to your email marketing. Again, it's $200 a month for the 2 months to go all the way through the workshop. And that's how you can get started. So it's bmecrew.com/go. And as we wrap up in our last few minutes here, then I would like to answer any questions. Also, for anybody that is in BME Crew that's live here, if you would like to, feel free to drop a comment about what your experience has been like, because I will share that with everybody here as well. But if you have any questions about the workshop, then that would be excellent. So excellent. That's great news, Keith. Keith is a BME Crew member and has been for a long time. We love working with you, Keith. So I'm really excited to hear about all that progress. I know how hard you've been working, and we can't wait to see you grow and support you along the way there as well. Awesome. So yeah, so any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. I will answer those. And excellent. Yeah, this will be great timing, Melissa, to make sure this is all compliant and on track, because like I said, Google typically gives like a 30 to 60 day window, but I'm glad you guys are going to be able to address that with our support in BME Crew, because it's email marketing for the direction you guys are going is obviously super, super important. Couple questions that I pretty typically get for these types of workshops is, how technical do I need to be? How tech savvy do I need to be? The good news with the workshop is you don't need to be tech savvy at all. We will guide you through everything 100%. And we're also going to validate after we help you set things up. You may be putting some things in. We will revalidate everything that's set up to make sure that you don't unintentionally block something or break something. And so we will help you all the way through that. So you do not need to be part of, or you don't need to be, nerdy, techie, and understand all this stuff. We'll guide you through it. We have an amazing technical team. I have personally done this work for a long, long time, and I will be guiding that as well. So Michelle's question, could this be used to boost a launch? Yeah, absolutely. With email marketing, it's absolutely a great way to promote your launches, anything you're doing, whether it's a new podcast, a new product, a new place that you're selling physically, brick and mortar. Any of that can be used as well. And of course, as you know, Michelle, I know you've been a BME Crew member with us as well. Anything else you need support with marketing wise, we'd be glad to do that. So that can help as well. As a reminder, I know I have it on the screen, but some of you may be listening. It's bmecrew.com/go. That will take you to the sign up page for this. And let's see here, see if any other questions, and then we'll wrap up here shortly. We will keep this. Let me see. I'm looking. I got a second here. I will take a look at our schedule here. So I know we're going to have the replay up. And so for those of you that end up catching the replay, we only have a limited number of seats for this. And I don't have that number in front of me, but we will keep this available definitely through Friday night. So another 48 hours. Essentially, but beyond that, we'll probably take this down because we only welcome a few folks at once into BME Crew and for these types of workshops. So definitely take action on that. If you happen to see this after that, reach out. If we have open spots, I would be glad to let you know about that. But otherwise, we would love to have you involved. I appreciate everyone being here with us today. And as always, thanks for your support and help here, Ashley. It's great to have your input. Excellent. Well, thanks everybody for being here. If you have questions, reach out. Again, if you're looking to sign up, it's bmecrew.com/go, like we have up on the screen. Thanks for spending time with us here today, and definitely keep your eye out. We will share with you any future workshops that we have, and we'll keep you in the loop on that as well. And keep in mind as well, if there's other things you need help with as it relates to marketing or any of your technical stuff, we do a lot of that inside of BME Crew, and so we'd be glad to support you there. But otherwise, everyone have an awesome rest of your day, and we will see everybody soon.